our character's geometry is now considered complete, right? We've retoppled every part of the character. We made any final tweaks to our geometry, right? So now it's time to move on to the next phase, which will be generating our UVs. So what does that mean? So here we can see we have our 3D model. And so what we want to do now is cut it all open, flatten it out to put all this 3D model into a 2D space kind of coordinates. So here you can see all our vertices, our edges, and our faces are kind of existing in a 2D world when prior they were existing in a 3D world, right? So then we can use these UV coordinates uh, to go into the process that we call baking to transfer all our paint data, our sculpted data from our 3D sculpt down to 2D images like this. But this wouldn't be possible without us being able to create these UVs here. Okay. So to put it into like real world context, while we're working on our UVs, try to think of our 3D model as a box, right? And so then we're going to select certain edge loops and we're going to cut those up, which will allow us to open up our 3D model, right? And unfold it and flatten it to create kind of like this flat box that you see here. So as we kind of start doing this process to a couple of the different models, I want you to kind of picture this in your head so it kind of makes sense, right? But now we want to think a step further here. And so we want to create UV sets in order for us to generate the most efficient 2D images possible, right? Or what we call textures. And so here I've kind of laid out the UV sets that we're going to do. And so there are certain rules that you follow for character art in terms of how many UVs you're going to have or whatever, but we're just going to keep things simple. In our case here, we're going to group all our skin objects together so the hands and the head will all go under one UV sheet or one texture sheet. Then we're going to group our wardrobe, the tracksuit, the shoes, the hat, and the hair all in one texture sheet. And then finally, the eyes will have their own. So generally for character stuff, you will always kind of put the eyes as their own UV sheet or texture sheet, which will allow more control in the shader and also allow more flexibility in terms of texture sizing and texture budgets and stuff like that. So don't want to get too technical, but for now, these are just the UV sets we're going to use, okay? Just to kind of keep things simple.